Well, the first question is a new one. What's he doing here?
Oh, hey, yeah,
I happen to think that this segment was clever and it was relevant to real issues that young people are having today. They're well identified as Jews, but within that there are conflicts and there are so many definitions because they think they have choice, and when they start trying to find their choices, they're not so easy to find.
I think that the video was hilarious. I thought it was pointed, contemporary, and really, really funny.
I thought it was phenomenal because what it does is it turns Yiddish into a contemporary language. It's no longer an archive type thing, so that it'll appeal to people who are not interested in reviving Yiddish. It'll appeal to an entire generation who's just looking for that kind of humor.
I thought it was terrific. I really enjoyed it. I liked the contrast between the two men and the woman. I was surprised that she's supposed to be a doctor. Usually it's the other way around, where the male is the doctor.
Yes, my mother told me that your mother told her that you're a neurosurgeon. Very impressive.
Your mother didn't mention what you do.
I found the entire episode was interesting in that it was so different.
Foremost, what do you think of the content of the videos you just saw?
Listen, I find them very funny. I enjoy them. I think it's wonderful to hear Yiddish being used the way it was used for a couple of hundred years, which was not just by religious Jews, but by caustically cynical, anti-religious Jews. We have an unmined trove of Yiddish literature that was used to poke fun, ridicule all kinds of expressions of Jewish life in Eastern Europe, and it's nice to know that Yiddish is not just monopolized today by the ultra-Orthodox.
I thought the video was very funny. There was a lot of humor to it. It was very entertaining, and as a non-Jew, it was stereotypical a little bit, but I was able to understand and laugh in a very respectful, tasteful manner.
And what do you think of the content of this video?
If it's not clear that this is the breaking of the fast, although it says so in the dialogue, if it were eating during Yom Kippur, it would be objectionable.
Yes,
So it has to be clear that it's the breaking of the fast after Yom Kippur.
I think actually this video was during the fast, and that's the point of it. So if it is during the fast... But
it's called breaking of the fast.
I think that's the title, but I think in the video the whole point is that he's trying to get his friend to break the fast because he doesn't believe in the tradition.
And I assumed it was after.
Okay, so now that you know that, how do you feel about this video?
Forget it.
I don't like the idea that people are doing that, teasing other people to eat on Yom Kippur. I find that a little bit strange.
Excuse-moi, vous êtes? Mon ami ici veut commander quelque chose, je pense.
How did you feel about that YidLife Crisis video you just watched?
Well, I have a mixed feeling. I'm very glad that someone produced contemporary video and it is available for all on YouTube. At the same time, as any Jewish mother of marriageable age males, I know how dangerous for the Jews can be in luring the environment where Jews are becoming part of the larger community. And it's very relevant to what is going on in the community.
I thought the content was very much today. I thought that the woman was very much a liberated woman. She was doing all the questioning. She was bossy. She didn't give them much of a chance to think. They had to answer all these questions 1, 2, 3.
Einigen wegen Heimdelziehung, Vaccinierung, geben die Brust, kriminelle Vergangenheit, Rezept Narkotik bei Delfinisch, Infektie krank, eine Reise kein Mizrach-Afrika in den letzten 6 Monaten.
I think this was ultra modern, as opposed to if someone was being interviewed in my day, they wouldn't think of asking all these questions.
I love the way they bring in Quebec and poutine. Okay, you're bringing in where you're living. They're bringing in all their surroundings, all their environment, okay?
Also der Mann ist ein Poutine-Separatist, du Alter.
Das ist ein fleischigen Joef.
But the idea, the way he's sitting there and eating Yom Kippur really just turned me off. I have nothing against people eating for Yom Kippur, but not to flaunt it in front of somebody else. Okay, that was my first thing. It was almost like he was eating lakshan and chicken soup. Then, what also got me was, he said it's not God that he's worried about, it's his parents, okay? And I'm sure every kid in Me Too would say, my gosh, what would my parents think? And this is the wrong thing to think about, well, we all do. Okay, so he's worried about his parents. And he's sort of laughing at his friend who says, no, I don't. Finally convinces his friend that he can have poutine. But what does he do? He's eating poutine, but he's separating the sauce and the poutine, because you don't mix milk with meat, right? And then he's taking the poutine and then he's taking the sauce. So it was sort of like he was controversing himself. Like he thought, well, I'm going to be a good Jew. I'm not going to eat something that's not kosher because you don't mix meat, right? But on the other hand, if I separate them and I eat one, then I take a spoon of the other, that's okay. Unfortunately, what I'm seeing is what's really happening in the world. Okay, I really am seeing that. I'm seeing that, and it has nothing to do with being religious. It's just that I find their thoughts are going along the wayside.
The video was sort of funny. It wasn't belly laugh funny, but it was clever in the sense that it picks up on a lot of things that are commonly thought of as being today. Hyperfeminism. 2 guys trying desperately to vie for the same woman, the woman trying to decide which one she likes better.
The content was cute. It was a spoof on what was once with the Chapman setting up the whole marriage stuff. I mean, that doesn't happen anymore. Come on. But it was cute, it brings back old stories. Whether they were true or not doesn't really make a difference, but it was cute. Okay. I have never learned any Hebrew. I never had a bar mitzvah, but I certainly consider myself very Jewish, or should I say very Yiddish. Mm-hmm. And that's where it's at, A lot of people, they refer to Yiddish, oh, it's really German. Well, I don't know what the roots of it are, and I really don't care. I know this is what my parents spoke, and I wish it was still going on, and I really fear it is dying out.
So would you say that a video like this is a good way to do that, to bring it, to keep
I think
it alive?
A video like this is great because it spoofs it a bit. They don't take it too seriously. The whole thing is done like with a little bit of, a little chagrin, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. But you have to get to the kids. That's the thing. And Yiddish is being phased out. Look at JPPS.
And Bialik, yeah.
And Bialik, the Yiddish is being phased out. And if you phase it out, you don't have a love for the language anymore. And that's what you need.
Mm-hmm. If they take Yiddish out of JPPS and Bialik, they just become other parochial schools, as opposed to Yiddish schools that, we're the last, you guys are the last generation, man. If you don't, if you don't get serious about it and try to save it, it's gonna be gone. It'll be, just the klezmerites will be speaking it.
No, but in the States, I think that they have groups that are deal a lot more with this, with the Yiddish, and I think we're missing something here in Montreal, and Montreal has plenty of Yiddish in terms of our generation, but not the younger ones.
So do you think that's a good way to approach younger people?
Yeah, that's what it is a good way.
I think it's a great way to approach younger people because they can laugh about it and they can identify with an actual Hollywood star who is Jewish and who speaks Yiddish, and so to speak.
Hi Megan, are you yourself a Bialik graduate?
Yes, I graduated in 2012.
So what did you think of the content in the video you just watched?
Honestly, I thought it was very funny. Yes, there's some offensive things that are brought up, but at the end of the day, I think that it was very funny.
During your education at Bialik, was Yiddish a big part of your learning experience?
I want to say no. Like, yeah, they did include it in one of our languages in the school system, but at the same time, I don't think that it was very prominent in our day-to-day life at Bialik.
Has your attitude towards this language evolved since then?
I definitely think that yes. Like, growing up, I always knew that my bubby's first language was always Yiddish, and I always knew that, and she always would say it to me, but I never actually saw it really firsthand other than in a classroom. But after experiencing Klez Canada and seeing such an environment where Yiddish is so alive, I do think that my appreciation for the language has grown.
Do you think your appreciation of this video is different now than it would have been when you were at Bialik?
I think yes, because now that I've seen it as an actual language in a community, like, and being alive, I would say that seeing it in this video, I appreciate it more because as a 21-year-old, I never really saw like people having a full conversation in Yiddish. And I would definitely say that watching this video now, like, even if the Yiddish isn't perfect and the language isn't written out, so, like, and they memorized it probably, but I still think that it's so important to be able to see it so alive and so in front of your face and being used as humor. Like, I've never seen people joking around in Yiddish, you know, like, and I'm like, I should have at this point. Like, I know it's a dying language, but never seen it. I think that after this whole experience at Klez Canada, like, seeing Yiddish used in a humorous manner, I definitely appreciate it more.
I really enjoyed the video, thought it was super funny. As a Bialik student, I think it's a cool way for, you know, the younger generation to get a look at the Yiddish world and learn the Yiddish language a little bit better.
I love the video. I thought it was so funny.
I really loved it, how incorporated Yiddish. If my classes were like that when I was at Bialik, I would have been so much more interested in them and I would have went way more. It just would have been amazing.
I agree with that. I loved how Maya Bialik is in it. I loved her in The Big Bang Theory too.
Great character. She's just all around. It was funny. Loved it.
The video was absolutely hilarious. We all loved it. And we all wish that there was Yiddish back at this beautiful school we have right here. But unfortunately there isn't, but we're trying to bring it back and we love the video.
Because those videos are more current, they're more within the new media culture. They're not just boring grammar exercises and stuff like that. So I really enjoyed them. Yeah, I think they're more useful.
So you're saying that if you had learned that in school, you think you would have been more attracted to the language?
Yeah, I think I would have. I think I would have been more attracted because it's more in.
Just the content, because not especially. I'm not especially for it, except for me at this point, because Yiddish is sort of going downhill. Bialik stopped teaching it. I think that I'm accepting any bit of Yiddish I can get. If somebody can hear the Yiddish language, I'm for it. So I'm of two minds with this thing.
So in terms of the content, you don't appreciate it, and for what reason?
I do, but not, it's sort of, with the dates and stuff, and mothers and the usual Yiddish,
I did want to add to what your professor said in terms of the levels of Yiddish. It seems to be a blunt and superficial Yiddish because it is missing nuances. It's missing between the lines that makes Yiddish Yiddish. But at the same time, it's good because it provides smaller vocabulary and allows not sophisticated Yiddish listeners to get into the game.
What do you think of the Yiddish itself?
I thought it was everyday Yiddish. It's the Yiddish that I can understand. When I go to a Jewish play and they speak quickly and I don't understand every single word and I really basically understand Yiddish, this was very clear to me. But it's today's Yiddish. It's not like when I was a kid.
The Yiddish was actually conversational Yiddish, North American Yiddish, hardly literary, if you will, but understandable and reasonable. Accent was good, terminology was good. Talking to their mothers while they're talking to each other, I thought that was clever. So I thoroughly enjoyed that. That's good.
And what do you think of the use of the Yiddish language?
I like that too. I found that very funny because my mother tongue is Yiddish actually, but I speak a different kind of Yiddish. I speak the Polish, very, I guess, common kind of. This sounded more like didn't it sound like Litvak? It did.
Literary.
It's more literary. Yeah, it sounded very, very literary compared to what I speak. Mine is kind of a, what you call a pushete Yiddish, a very simple Yiddish, you know. I pronounce things differently than they do, and it's nice to hear that kind of Yiddish being spoken.
The Yiddish at times was difficult to follow because of the way they were speaking, and also depends what part of Poland, Romania, or Russia you came from, because the Yiddish was different in all of these places. You know, if you were a Galicianer, it was one thing. If you were a Litvak, it was pronounced a little different. But, you know, it was difficult to understand at times, but certainly got the gist of it. And, you know, on occasion I cheated with looking at the translation.
Ich hab da von mir zwei Schmenderikes, was meinen, als ich red nicht kein Jiddisch und Pater in unserer Zeit.
So you were saying about...
Some of these Class Canada members take their Yiddishkeit so seriously is that they really get upset if anything doesn't reflect very positively about Yiddish. Now, I love the old Yiddish and I grew up in a Yiddish house, but come on, hey, it's like, you know, it's 75 years removed from that, and we can move on. Nothing wrong with remembering Yiddish and being able to relate to Yiddish, but hey, Yiddish wasn't perfect, and the people who spoke Yiddish weren't perfect.
They didn't use that much Yiddish here. Yiddish is a people's language, okay? I mean, Hebrew classically is the holy language, but this is the language of the people. So it's got more common expressions and more things that can reflect ranges of emotion, from anger to despair to hope to happiness. And there are certain things that you can only say in Yiddish. If you have any kind of background, there are just certain expressions that seem to find their way into your conversation because they're the only thing that describe what you really want to say. So it's a very unique language in that way. I don't mind curses and off-color language in an appropriate way. I mind when it's disrespectful of the culture that it represents.
I thought the Yiddish was very good. I mean, I thought that the idea of using the subtitles were good for people who didn't understand all of it. But other than that, the Yiddish was very clear, I thought.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot, and it's fun for me to hear it and hear it being spoken, you know, in a lively way.
As a Yiddish speaker, how did you feel about the Yiddish they used?
I enjoyed the Yiddish. I thought it was quite authentic, and they did a very good job of speaking Yiddish. Even if it was from transliteration, it was noticeable. It was very good.
I don't.
Well, I don't
I
mind
don't
it.
at all.
I had a discussion with Teresa Tova recently at a performance. She's a very well-known performer and a terrific performer.
Of what?
Yiddish music.
Oh.
And it was in a club in Toronto during Yiddish Music Week. And what she did, she was translating, she was singing night and day, and
I love it.
some other, well, it was very nice, but it's not Yiddish culture, and it's not Yiddish music.
But
It's
things change.
Would you consider-
And if we can,
That doesn't
if we
change.
can extend Jewish culture into contemporary life,
That's
then
not-
we're extending it. We're
that's
giving it a
That's
new
not
way
Yiddish,
of.
not Jewish culture. It has nothing to do with Jewish.
I think
except
things
it's translating English stuff into Jewish. Which is
think
which is very nice if you're presenting a program of music, which consists of a lot of music, and you include in it one song, which is here's something a little different. I'm going to do,
I understand what you're saying, but
I'm going to do the Chattanooga Shushan Boy in Yiddish. Great. It would be really interesting and different. But if you do 5 songs in a row and say this was a Yiddish program, I think you're missing.
It depends who you're appealing to.
If you're,
who your
if you're
audience
talking
is.
to Yiddish speakers or people who want to preserve Yiddish culture, then you're doing the wrong thing.
What if you're trying to get people to look at Yiddish in a new
Well,
way?
you're not going to get it by giving them English culture.
I think.
So my question is, do you think that this video does a good job of extending Jewish culture into a contemporary world, or do you think that it's fake?
Well, I don't know if such a situation as that video portrays could take place in the modern world. Maybe it could. But because it's a Yiddish conversation between 3 people about a topic that it could be discussing, then it's not exactly a translation of an English theme. It's a general theme.
Oh, well, I love Yiddish, and anytime I hear Yiddish, I'm delighted in what contents. I think they speak very well, and I am happen to be very proud of these 2 boys who were educated in the school I was working in, which still taught Yiddish very well, which doesn't very much anymore.
I like that it's that there's an attempt, at least, to make it contemporary language.
Netflix und chillend.
In this way they hear Yiddish words, they're hearing Yiddish language, so it's better than nothing for sure. But it's not the only thing I would like.
And in terms of their use of the actual Yiddish language, what do you think of that?
Well, Ellie speaks well, for sure, absolutely. I know it from way back. I taught him, he was in my class one year, but it isn't because I taught him. I think he has had a Yiddish background at home. And that plus going to Bialik,
That they speak Yiddish, but they don't speak it authentically. For example, I have a lot of ultra-Orthodox Jewish patients whose language of daily communication is Yiddish, and these guys sound like English guys who are doing a pretty good job speaking Yiddish, but they're not totally credible as Yiddish speakers. That's what makes it funny.
There's a pre-Yiddish Yiddish. What I mean by that is, long before anyone spoke Yiddish, there was a certain Jewish linguistic style, which begins even as far back as the Bible, but really begins in the Talmud, where you have this kind of, and again, if I was, an expert in linguistics, I would have the exact technical terms to describe the linguistic style I'm trying to describe, but this kind of sarcastic, interesting way of looking at the world. That attitude, that linguistic attitude, that approach to dialogue predates Yiddish. Yiddish concretizes it in a magnificent way, but that persists into Hebrew. And by the way, I know I'm right because when you listen to Sephardic Jews who had no contact with Yiddish, when they talk and their expressions, those are expressions and turns of phrases that you would associate with a Yiddish style. There's a Jewish cultural style, right? There's a linguistic style which is, again, is concretizing Yiddish in a way that no other language ever did, provided that vehicle for it. But there's an attitude in the way Jewish talk.
Und die hat auch nein gesagt, nicht nur sagen, es ist nicht okay, Gott in den Himmel zu sagen, dass du wirst etwas essen, Yom Kippur.
Ich hab erst gesagt, dass wir können nicht wissen, oder Gott existiert. Zweitens, es ist nicht von Gott, dass ich hab Moich, es ist die Älteren.
Listen, I don't know if it's kosher, but it certainly is Jewish. Kosher is, I don't know, but it certainly is entertaining. It's irreverent. It's funny. I find it, eminently enjoyable. And I listen. I get nachas from seeing kids talk Yiddish. What can I tell you? I'm an old Jew.
Both of you as educators, do you feel that this would be a good way to bring Yiddish to the next generation?
No, because I think it's disrespectful to bring it in such a connotation when you're trying to preserve your heritage and various other things.
The answer is no. I think it's disrespectful of the Yiddish-speaking people who look at their language as their precious heritage, and for that to be introduced to a new generation as this is what the Yiddish is like, is not a proper way of doing it.
Definitely not bring it this way. 100% not. Okay? I'm like I said, I'm not a religious person. I don't, like I said, the Yiddish is not colloquial Yiddish here. I said to you right away, they looked these words up in the dictionary. I would not bring Yiddish in this way. I don't think I would want to expose my students to this. Not that I would ever say anything of what one person does religious-wise. It's not my business. They don't have to know what I practice. I don't have to know it them. But I certainly wouldn't give this to them to feed on, because I think that's wrong. Okay, I wouldn't show them someone eating on Yom Kippur after Kol Nidre, convincing his friend to eat non-kashrut. Okay, they can, not my problem, their choice, but not something that I would show to others, especially children. And I don't know what age your group, but especially younger children, I wouldn't even get that thought into their head. And older children, I wouldn't show it to them, because to me this is wrong. If they do it, it's fine, but I'm not going to be the one to present it.
Listen, in my mind, Judaism and Jewish identity has never been language-centric. It hasn't. It's not. We are idea-centric. So, but having said that, as they say, the knowledge of Yiddish opens ones up to, again, an incredible body of literature. Not just novels and the fine Yiddish writers who have acquired some fame, mostly in translation. But it also opens one up to a huge amount of historical writings in Yiddish, and it's a wonderful tool, and it's it's still one of the languages you can use when you bump into Jews anywhere in the world. It's useful. Is Jewish identity centered on any language, even Hebrew? No, it's not. And people in Israel will be upset when I say that, and Yiddish speakers will be upset, and Ladino, but it's not. It's idea centered, and we're formed by our ideas. Language is how we express them. Language is vital. There's so many things that you understand better when you are literate in the languages, especially Hebrew. But to think that somehow the future of Jewish identity depends on Yiddish knowledge is not correct.
It actually had me chuckling this time. The first time I saw it, I don't know why, I was a bit resentful. There was something that annoyed me about it, and I think I know what. I don't like when somebody gets the better of somebody else. I felt sorry for the guy whose friend sort of was one-upping him, And this time I sort of took it more, straightforward. I think it was cute. They were cute, the guys, with their mothers. I mean, kind of their mothers running, telling them what to do, and being happy if they were being matched with a Jewish person. I think that was sort of cute.
I thought these two young gentlemen were very entertaining. They had a way of capturing the audience, keeping attention, not dwelling too long on certain topics, short to the point.
When this opens up, it's like my favorite part, okay, for Yom Kippur. What I liked, Kol Nidre is the best tefillah ever, okay, because it goes right to your heart. I opened it up, and I saw him sitting there and eating, okay? So right away, knowing who these guys are, I said, this right away turned me totally the wrong way, okay?
What's good and bad? I have a very small list of things that are either good or bad. I have a very limited list. I mean, when Philip Roth first started writing back in the 60s, people freaked out that he was exposing, the imperfections of the Jewish community to the world, and it would be a shanta for the goyim, it would be an embarrassment in front of the world, and to talk about things that people didn't talk about before. At this point, our friends out there, people inclined to think well of us, have a sophisticated understanding. There are all different kinds of Jews. We all come in all shapes and sizes. To those who want to see the negative, they will always see the negative. And I think we have to have a more confident attitude towards the way we are portrayed. No one movie or one book or one video will turn someone against us or for us even. Those who are inclined to find the negative will always find the negative. Those who are inclined to think well in a more positive way will always find those reasons as well. I think they're doing I think it's a lot of fun.
Sei gesund.
Zai.